So today we'll be looking at Homefront the Revolution. Now originally I planned on pre-ordering and doing a let's play of Homefront the first night it came out. I had it pre-ordered and everything to go. However, I completely forgot that that was also my graduation night, and I didn't remember that I had pre-ordered the game till like 2 or 3 days after it was released. When I did eventually pick up the game, I had no idea what to expect. I had only heard it had gone through a few developers, and it was going to take an open world approach on the first-person shooter genre. So before I picked up Homefront the Revolution, I heard some good and bad reviews on it. The dude at GameStop told me that it was going to be awesome and don't listen to the reviewers, and the reviewers told me that it was just going to be a complete piece of crap. However, I did hear the same thing about the original Homefront, which was released, I believe, only on PS3 and Xbox 360. The original Homefront I ended up loving, even though the reviewers and people had told me that it wasn't really that good of a game. So I gave this same Homefront the same benefit of the doubt. In the original Homefront, I loved it because the story seemed possible, the characters were relatable in a sense, and the gameplay reminded me a lot of MW2, which is my favorite Call of Duty of the series. So how bad could Homefront the Revolution be? Now this review is going to be split up into 2 parts. So this is going to be my first impressions of Homefront the Revolution, and the next part of the review is going to be when I'm deep enough into the game to see if it gets any better or any worse. So finally, let's begin this. So the game starts off like many other first-person shooters with a dramatic voice talking about dramatic things.
It started back with the Apex Corporation in the 70s.
Wait, the Apex Corporation?
Even back then, their tech was way ahead of what was coming out of America.
Oh well, I guess let's keep listening.
We bought everything they could sell, from phones to tablets to just about anything. And when they started making weapons, well, we couldn't resist. As the dollar tanked, our debt to North Korea spiraled. Unemployment rocketed, and the country was on its knees. The failing government defaulted on the debt, and the North Koreans made their decision. Every piece of technology they'd sold us had a back door. They turned off our military with a single button press.
Wait, what? What made the original Homefront great was that people theorized about North Korea or some other world power taking out our power grid, because it's horribly defended. That's the big purpose of the original Homefront, because all the KPA did was shut down our power grid with an EMP. So what they're doing right now is completely rewriting the story of Homefront by saying that this Apex Corporation somehow had a back door to everything electronical in America, and that they attacked us simply because we were too much in debt to North Korea. Did the new developers just have no clue why that satellite exploded and thought it had something to do with an Apex Corporation? Well, maybe they left the rest of the story intact. Whoa. Okay, well, that's new. Robotic news lady. Wait a sec, is everyone in this a robot? That would explain everything, and by that I mean absolutely nothing. Oh yay, everyone who's actually modeled looks normal. Whoa, what's up with the frame rate? Yes, I did not update this game when I first purchased it, and it has this weird frame rate. It's hard to notice through YouTube's compression, but it somewhat gives me a headache. And that was a big pet peeve for me when I first got this game. I really wish it ran smoother. However, I'm not going to complain about that too much, because after I updated it, it still had the frame rate issue, but I tended not to notice it, and I'm not sure if that's about the update or just because I've played it more. But I just think I should mention that when you go to play this, the frame rate isn't smooth, but you tend to forget about it if you play longer than a half an hour. So these two are supposedly your bros. And what you might notice about the woman is a trend about the girls in this game, that half of them show freaking huge amounts of cleavage, which is the equivalent if all the strong guys just ran around shirtless. How does that aid you in a revolutionary fight, having less clothing over your chest area? It's like you made all the guys dress normal, why not the girls? They're going to be off getting shot at least put them in normal clothing. Anyways, this conversation doesn't last too long because you shortly get captured. All you really need to know is there's some dude roaming around called Walker who's leading this revolution, and that the KPA calls them all terrorists. These two characters that seem semi-normal and nice are obviously instantly killed at the beginning of the game. Now, on a storytelling point, I understand that that was supposed to get you angry for this really bad A moment here.
It's Walker.
That dude who belongs in a Hollywood movie is Walker, and he is awesome, as you can tell by the way he called someone right before he shot him to death. However, what follows this is Walker getting injured and then you getting sent out to do errands for him. While you're walking around, you might notice that the frame rate is horrible here. This might have been fixed with the update, however at the beginning of the game with all these lights and rain and darkness, the game just cannot seem to handle it smoothly.
I picked a bad time to get shot.
No dip, Sherlock. However, something cool is Walker gives you a cell phone, which I think this needs to be implemented more than in just Grand Theft Auto. It is really cool It is really cool having a cell phone with all its apps in a game, because in real life, except really after an EMP that would have fried your cell phone, but apparently the EMP never happened, but more than likely that's a cell phone by this corporation that sold everyone their electronics. But let's ignore all that. He somehow got a cell phone. It's really cool to have a cell phone in the game, because in real life everyone's already looking at their cell phones all the time. In this, you can take pictures, you can look at a map, and you can get text messages, which I think is really cool to get your updates on what to do next. So while you're out, you manage to find information on the local resistance. But first you screw up hacking the security gate, because the hacking thing has to load. Basically, you hold the two analog sticks in a position while it's loading. So say it takes you a while to figure out the right position to get the thing to load, you're basically screwed, because the loading time might take longer than the time you have left, even though you know exactly what you have to do now. It's a pretty frustrating puzzle. Anyways, once you find out where the local resistance cell is, Walker of course gets found out somehow. Little bit of police brutality later, we move on. And as you're wandering around, you end up bumping into people asking for money, and bumping into prostitutes and all these people who are just really there to get in your way, because you're not allowed to help any of them or anything. You can't really interact with the people even though they try to interact with you. Once you find the resistance safe house, you think, oh good, I'm going to actually meet the characters that I'm going to be stuck with now, since the first two got killed and then the other one got captured. Well, the first two attack you, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm a silent character. You cannot respond while all these people treat you like a terrorist because they think you're a spy. Then you learn that the game just wants you to hate all the characters apparently, because you end up getting taken to a room with this girl who's going to torture you. Now I want to stress this, in the original Homefront I always felt that there was some sort of moral superiority. Like, everything you did compared to all the people around you seemed right. The only controversial thing that happened in that game was the white phosphorus, but they even tried to justify that by saying the North Koreans would have used it.
This isn't right. We don't kill for sport.
In this, the KPA has killed some people, but then you meet the resistance and you find out they're torturing people.
Who should we shoot?
Shoot them all.
And then you sort of learn a little bit on how they torture people, and it's disgusting.
Okay. Nipples first.
So tell me again why I should care about anyone in this game. So far, none of the Americans have really showed too much patriotism. They've only shown hate towards North Koreans. I have no idea how people who are so unorganized and psychopathic are going to restore America after they kick the North Koreans out. And the only friendly dude so far is this doctor guy here. So at least I can cling to him, right?
Ethan Brady. I knew it. Walker's message said he was coming in with this guy.
Well, no one told me.
Well, I would have told you if I could have frickin' spoke! After the Resistance has now tried to kill me, and I've now found out every side in this war is bad, I am thrown into a mission. But first, let's go walk out and listen to the same speech that's given by everyone who respawns in this same base by Booby McBooberson over here. At this point of the game, we finally get into some of the gameplay, which means I'm going to not have to focus on the story as much, as crappy as it is, and I can focus on what does the game actually have to offer. In a playthrough that I'm actually recording right now, I got off on a rant about talking about content in video games. I really like it when video games have a lot of content to unlock, and if it doesn't have a good story, there has to be some other incentive for me wanting to continue to play longer than an hour. So what does Homefront have to offer? Well, one cool thing is you can see your legs. I mean, that's something some first-person shooters have only just implemented for some odd reason. Then there's weapon customization, which I think we just briefly went over. As that generic dude was walking us through the subway, he took us to see another generic dude who shows you that you can convert your pistol into a fully automatic carbine by just taking the upper off it and putting on what I think they call them mod packs or something.
But with one of Cookie's special conversion kits?
So this dude, I have a feeling in the future, will apparently be able to sell me upgrades for my guns. And you can interchange them by basically waving the gun in front of your face and putting on new attachments. Now I swear I've seen something like this before. Anyways, that's interesting, but it leads me into another problem I have with this game, which is none of the weapons have legit names to them. They are all named by basically the class of what they are. So they label an M4 an assault rifle, even though an assault rifle doesn't actually have a technical definition, and most rifles in this game would be considered an assault rifle. But anyways, the M4 in this is called the assault rifle, and your pistol is just called the pistol. There's no, like, multiple different kinds of ammo like in Fallout, or multiple different kinds of guns like in any other first-person shooter, and that frustrated me for a long time. However, near the end of this, I finally found a really cool feature of this game, which is you can customize the attachments and the guns to a lot higher degree of detail than I thought. Now that is something to keep me continue playing the game, so I can unlock more and more parts and try to get the best gun I possibly can. One thing you'll get to work out right at the beginning of the game is motorcycles. For some odd reason, you have motorcycles scattered across the city and you can ride them around. However, coupled with the horrible frame rate and the somewhat headache-inducing speed of the game, motorcycles were almost impossible to drive the first time I played it. It's odd because I feel like it was impossible to drive, but I still wasn't hitting anything. It was really confusing. I felt really lucky when I was driving the motorcycle, and I usually just run everywhere. The motorcycles are cool though for making quick dashes while everyone's shooting at you, because I'm pretty sure the developers didn't expect you to try to win every firefight you get yourself into. Another thing is, this game seems to try to build itself around parkour in a way. It almost seemed like it was trying to do a Dying Light sort of setup where you ran around this town and jumped onto ledges and stuff. However, the only grappling you really can do is one animation, which is you pulling yourself up, just like in every other first-person shooter. However, pulling yourself up on corners and stuff looks really odd, and I just think they should have spent a little bit more time in how you climb things. So that's a lot of new stuff, or at least interesting stuff. However, there's a little bit more. The guns, for some reason, don't have a crosshair, and I can't so far figure out how to turn on a crosshair. And the guns are very recoil sensitive, so you have to think of this as taking a more realistic approach. You have a health bar, and your guns are very hard to control, which makes it seem like it was going for the realistic point. However, it still takes a while to put down your enemies. They'll just get up and start shooting at you over and over and over again. Now, what you might have noticed is when you're behind cover, there are some really cool controls, such as being able to peer around corners and above corners and blind shoot. I really like that, and I think that sort of adds to the realism effect that they're giving to some of the gameplay. However, one thing that I'm a little confused about on the combat is some of the things you can craft. Now, in this game, there's crafting. You can like pick up materials and take them out of things and build grenades and stuff, which is really cool. However, I've been picking up tons of stuff, and I'm still not exactly sure what it's all used in. Maybe it's future stuff you unlock, but I wish there was an easier way to understand what the heck you're picking up is. Also, unlike in The Last of Us or Uncharted, when you go to pick things up, it doesn't seem smooth. It just seems like you're playing some kind of alpha where you have to press square to cause this interaction to happen. I do like the idea of making the game realistic in a way, so they make you pick up your own ammo and money. I really like that. So the idea isn't completely failed, it's just not properly executed like a lot of the other stuff in this game. The only time I really had fun shooting guns was in this one mission where everyone was in an enclosed area and reinforcements couldn't really come because it was a mission. That was actually fun, and that's when I first started kind of getting into the game. At the beginning of it, I was trying really hard to get into it, and I just couldn't. Every time I got my hopes up, they were let down. Now, this was the first half of the game. After you get done fooling around out in the open and running across this very destroyed city, you learn that there's a more organized section of the town that the Resistance sends you to liberate.
My guys are being held at the police station, and God only knows what the Norks are doing to them. We gotta get them out before they give up any information. Go. We got a few tricks up our sleeves. Look upstairs on the table. I think you'll find it very useful.
There's a quick cutscene basically telling you that the more you do, the more liberated an area gets.
You need to persuade ordinary people to join the fight. The map shows your progress towards inspiring the district to rise up.
And you can hide inside objects if you get caught by the police. When I was outside, I started wondering, why are the police attacking me so instantly? Don't people walk around normally? Well, it was because I was in a restricted area. When I'm in the civilian district, I guess I'll call it, the cops do not chase you until they realize you are that fugitive. So as long as you avoid them, none of the KPA police force will try to attack you. My problem with this section is, again, it seems almost morally wrong. Instead of the Resistance attacking the KPA or anything like that, throughout this whole entire mission, it seems like all you're trying to do is spur on a riot. In the original Homefront, when you go to the civilians don't want you there. They even blatantly tell you that they don't want any trouble there. What happens when the Resistance is mixed in with the civilians, the KPA comes down and shoots everyone. In this, you cause a lot of property damage and kill a lot of people and destroy a lot of vehicles, and for some reason people just think, I want to fight the KPA now because people are dying. You're not really giving anyone a reason to fight except for the fact that you're destroying things. One good example of why in the world would the civilians help you is when you see civilians forced into work being monitored by the KPA police force, and you run up, kill the KPA soldier, and somehow that raises your hearts and minds meter, which means by killing the guard that was forcing those two people to work, you're saying those two people are now going to join the Resistance. Whereas in real life, those two people would then be probably executed by the KPA because they were the only ones around that guard when that guard was killed. Even the last Homefront understood that when you force civilians into the mix, they don't like it. It has to be a voluntary movement. This one just seems to force everyone into an upset. However, I don't even understand how it makes people want to riot when you're the one causing all the problems. After a very long time of trying to get the bar up to get people apparently interested in our cause, you hear from multiple people telling you how this will get the people to join the resistance.
We have to get the people on our side. Appeal to their hearts and minds.
Nice one, Brady. This'll help build support in the district.
You can give the signal from there and broadcast a message across the district to galvanize the people into action.
When we turn this on, it'll start broadcasting our messages across the whole district. Should start a goddamn riot. Huh.
To me, a resistance is organized. It's not a chaotic riot. However, to them, apparently a riot is somehow going to help them, and I don't know how because it's definitely not pointed at a target. As you walk around as the riot ensues, there's just people beating their car with a baseball bat saying F the KPA. How in the world does that deter the KPA? Anyways, then the doctor that I was talking about calls you being very upset because more people are getting killed due to your quote-unquote activism.
I don't care how important your cause. You have no right.
So the only kind dude in the game is now really upset with you, and it makes it sound like you have to choose between starting a riot or siding with the KPA. Is there no middle ground like in the last Homefront, where you weren't killing Koreans for fun, you weren't starting riots, but you also were still fighting them? In this, it just seems like, oh, well, you have to agree with the resistance because the only other option is to just lay down your arms and bow down to the KPA.
All this fine talk about revolution. But it's always the ordinary people who suffer. Seeing as your actions brought most of them here, maybe you'd be willing to help.
They make it seem like you have to choose between revolution is bad or revolution is good. There's another option besides starting a riot, but no, so far I have not yet seen that, and this is where I decided to stop. The whole rioting segment of this game really frustrated me, and I took forever just to accomplish something that didn't seem too productive in the first place. So this is the first half of this review. I don't have high hopes for it, but I'm hoping that in the future, maybe I'll find more out of this game, and maybe the story will even out, where you find a better way to fight the KPA or something. Or maybe you do end up organizing the rioters into attacking a specific target instead of just burning random things in the town. Either way, at this point, the game was pretty frustrating. I don't like the story, and the only thing to keep me playing is the few things you can unlock. It has a lot of good ideas, but I just think it needed more time.